Have you ever been insulted so badly that it changed the way you looked at your entire life? This is the story of a food delivery rider whose life changed because of one insult that he could never forget. One rainy night in Mumbai, Sooraj stood outside the door of an apartment inside a luxury high-rise building, wiping rainwater from his face and repeatedly pressing the doorbell. He was late, and he already knew the customer would not be happy. The woman who opened the door was Sangeeta, a young entrepreneur who ran a small AI startup. She looked at Sooraj with clear frustration and said,
"Do you even realize how important this evening was for me? I had investors here to discuss funding for my company, and I was counting on this dinner to make a good impression. Because the food arrived late, everything got delayed, and the whole meeting felt awkward. When people do not take their work seriously, it affects everyone else. You just cannot understand the pressure of trying to build something big. People like you and people like me live in very different worlds."
Sooraj stood silently with his head lowered while the insults continued to rain down on him. He finished the delivery, rode back through the wet streets, and completed the rest of his shift. When he finally returned to his tiny, cramped home in Dharavi that night, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling while the words he had heard echoed in his mind. He began to think about his life. His father had passed away when he was still in school. His mother worked long hours as a maid, and he had given up college so that his younger sister could continue her education. Most of his days were spent riding through traffic, heat, and rain just to earn enough for his family. Yet even with such a life, people liked him. Among the other delivery riders, Sooraj was known as cheerful and talkative. When work slowed down, he laughed easily, joined friends for a late-night movie, and sometimes celebrated small things with them after a long week. He also thought about the coding and artificial intelligence lessons he watched on his phone whenever he had free time. It was something he had always treated as just a hobby because he believed that such things belonged to another world, a world of people with degrees, connections, and opportunities that he never had. For the first time, Sooraj began to ask himself a difficult question. Was he going to live the rest of his life exactly the way it was now? From the next day onward, something changed inside him. His colleagues noticed it slowly. The cheerful rider who loved to joke around became quieter. The late-night movies and casual parties disappeared from his routine. Whenever Sooraj finished a delivery and found a few spare minutes, he opened his coding lessons again. But this time it was no longer a hobby he followed casually. It had become the direction of his life. Days turned into months, and months into years. Sooraj continued riding his bike across the city, working long shifts and saving whatever money he could. Every free hour went into learning programming, understanding algorithms, and studying AI. There was no classroom, no professor, and no degree waiting at the end of it. There was only discipline, patience, and the quiet belief that his life could become something different. 5 years passed in this way. By the end of those years, Sooraj had built skills that surprised not only him, but anyone who spoke to him about computers, coding, and AI. What had once seemed impossible slowly became familiar. He finally decided to leave his delivery job and apply for work at a small AI startup. During the interview, the company did not see a college degree on his resume, but they saw something else in him. They saw ability and knowledge that even some degree holders lacked. Sooraj entered the world he had once believed belonged only to people with college and university degrees. He worked there for another 5 years, growing stronger in both knowledge and confidence. Eventually, along with a few colleagues who shared the same vision, he started his own company. Their focus was innovation in AI, and over time their work began to attract attention across the country. What started as a small team slowly grew into one of the most respected AI companies in India. Years later, Sooraj sat in a quiet office interviewing candidates who had applied to join his company. Among them was a woman named Sangeeta. She walked in with a resume that showed experience running her own AI startup. She did not recognize the man sitting across the table, partly because time had changed him, and partly because she had never expected to meet that delivery rider again. Sooraj, however, recognized her immediately. During the interview, he asked about her previous company. Sangeeta explained that the startup had eventually closed because they had struggled to innovate and the funding she once hoped for never arrived. She spoke calmly, but there was quiet disappointment in her voice. The interview continued like any other, and Sooraj treated her with the same respect he showed every candidate. When it ended, he paused for a moment and told her something she did not expect. He said that many years earlier he had delivered food to her apartment on a rainy night, and he was the same rider who had arrived late when she was hosting her investors. For a few seconds, Sangeeta simply stared at him. Slowly, the memory returned, along with the realization of what had happened since that evening. Sooraj told her that the words she had spoken that night had stayed with him for a long time. Instead of holding anger in his heart, he had decided to change the way he looked at his own life. He also told her that the position she had applied for was hers if she still wanted it. Sangeeta's eyes filled with tears as she apologized for the way she had behaved years earlier. Sooraj accepted the apology with a quiet smile, not as someone seeking revenge, but as someone who had already moved far beyond that moment. The circumstances of his birth had not changed. The streets he grew up on had not changed. What changed was his mindset. When a person begins to believe that their future can be different from their present, the path ahead slowly begins to open. Change your mindset, and with time, you will discover that you have also changed your life. If this story affected you and changed the way you look at your life, please like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for listening.